Hello and good evening, everyone, for those of you who are listening to this. So this week's episode is going to be a first for us in hopefully what will be a long line of episodes where we have special guests. Now, this week, I want to introduce a special guest and colleague of ours. Her name is AnnaEivör Shvarova, and she is a UX, UI designer, 2D animator, and a digital creator and artist. So, with that, our main theme today for this episode will be to do with animation in Figma and also in Illustrator, which my one of my co-hosts Zach loves. For him, he enjoys Illustrator more than if he found a newly born kitten with a winning lottery ticket. That's how much he loves Illustrator. I'm sure everyone would, all of you out there, would like to join me in welcoming Anna to the show. Anna, it is great to have you here. And just to make you feel even more welcome, right, just because this is our first episode and you're our first guest, we want to really make you feel welcome.
Hello guys. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me today. It's a big pleasure to be present and talk to you about UI and UX.
And we're happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
We're very happy to have you here as well. So first of all, before we get into talking shop, please tell us a bit about your background, where you're from, what you've done in the past, and what got you into the world of design, not just UX and UI, but 2D animation, digital creation. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I was born in Ukraine, and then I moved to Iceland and lived there for a while. And then I traveled the world. So basically from the beginning, as far I remember myself, I was always so creative, and I love to draw, and I love to design something, make some handmade stuff and so on. And I just continued, but I entered university and I studied international relations and politics, so it was not kind of arty things. Then in Iceland I just started to paint, and I had 2 exhibitions in Reykjavik. But again, I was working in tourism, and it was not connected to art life. Then when I was living in Indonesia, in Bali, I actually started to understand that I like the structural work. I like to have I was actually managing the tourist company, and at the same time I love to create, I love to design, I love visual stuff and so on. So I was kind of trying to find myself, I was thinking what to do, how to digitalize my art. And I started to learn animation programs. So it was like Toon Boom and Animation Studio Pro. So I was making cartoons. I was trying to make cartoons, and it was kind of like a hobby. And it's like it was so interesting for me because I could make this visual stuff moving. But it was kind of like a hobby, and then I was still trying to find something that would combine the structural work and design and visual stuff, and then I found this UI and UX design program by Career Foundry, and yeah, I started to learn it, and I understood, yeah, this is my stuff. This is really what I love, and I think this is really my thing, and I enjoy this. So there is a system. But at the same time, you put your visual view, how you see it, and how you basically give the interface to people. So it's like with your own art. So I guess that's it, and my journey just started. So I hope I will continue and I will enjoy it more.
Well, we hope you will continue with it as well, and I'm sure we all. I mean, I know your profile. My co-hosts, if they haven't already done so, they've got a good idea. I'm pretty sure you'll be really successful in the field. But just before we get on to what we wanted to talk about, just quickly, because this was something that we spoke about in the first episode, what were your expectations before going into the bootcamp, or as you went into it, in terms of getting a job or references, as opposed to when you graduated, the realities? So the expectations versus the realities, because this was a real hot potato for us to talk about in the first episode, and we're just very curious about what your expectations were versus the realities. So pre-graduation and then post-graduation, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, that's a very big topic. But when I just started to learn this stuff, I thought like, yeah, that's cool, and everything is digitalized now, and we have all our mobile phones, and we all use computers and all the apps and everything. So I saw that I will definitely become a professional very fast, and I will find a job, and I will realize that it will be my thing that will bring me not only pleasure but also income. Yeah, when I finished my studying, I guess every month my expectations were lower and lower. So like, yeah, it's quite difficult. I understand that the IT industry is very difficult now. So it's kind of challenge to find a job, not only for junior designers but also for senior and so on. Yeah, and many companies just want to have some designer that would have an experience 1+, 2+ years, which I don't have. So yeah, it's kind of difficult, but I still don't lose my hope. I still continue to search, and at the same time, I mean, like, I try to improve myself and get more experience, but I still think that it cannot be compared with working in a real team and creating a real product. So yeah, I still look forward to start my first UI UX job.
It's a real tough thing for a lot of us out there, as you know. I mean, I'm still looking for a job, although I'm working on my portfolio. However, the cynic in me wants to say, well, what's the point? No one ever checks it, right? But lack of the years of experience aside, Anna, tell us about the type of well, okay, you don't have the years of experience, but obviously you have a broad depth of knowledge. So perhaps you want to, if you'd like, you could talk about your depth of knowledge when it comes to, say, designing a user interface and also doing animation, because I know from talking to other UI designers, and this is something that relates to a topic that we were talking about last week, such as how much Figma knowledge does a UX designer need to know. Of course, UX designer, it does primarily research, sketching, wireframing, prototyping, but I would never say that a UX designer is expected to be able to make advanced animations in Figma, and I only reference Figma because it's predominantly the tool that we use for everything else relating to UX. But what I'd really like to know is how do you sort of practice? How do you get more experience, or how do you demonstrate your knowledge of, say, animation in the context of UI? So let's say I've given you a prototype, and I say, hey, these are the checkpoints. This is the typography, which I know is something that UI designers do more. What would your approach be to make it really animated?
First of all, I think how I practice is just redesigning very famous apps, for example, or websites. So you just take it, you just open it in your phone or on your computer, and you just redesign and do the same animations or do the same interactions as it is in the original one. As for animation, I think first of all this is very important trend now in UI and UX in all interfaces, because probably people used to be involved in something which is moving in the motion design, because we watch all these videos in TikTok, in Instagram, in Facebook maybe, and the user needs something that would attract him or her, and all the buttons, all the visual parts should move. So the animation is very important now. Where I created, I just use my Figma. Maybe for visual things I use Figma or Adobe XD and Illustrator, maybe Photoshop. For animation as well, I can use Figma, and there is plenty of plugins and so on. And as for my experience in the animation, in like cartoon animation, it really helps, because once you learn one program for animation, it really helps you to learn another one. For example, guys, if you worked in Adobe XD, you open Figma or Sketch and you can use it. I mean, of course, it will be some small things that you don't know, but then you will just check it and then you will use it in the end. Visual interface. I always try to include some animation to my applications or website that I create, and it can be small interactions. For example, when you just hover a button or click it or press it, or just a visual screen with moving elements. So I personally I divide them on two parts. Like first one is technical animations. It will be the buttons and the CTAs, and then the decorative things. So it will be just visual decoration for the interface. Yeah, in general, I can say that animation is now already a very big trend in the interfaces, and I think it will be even more in the future.
Yeah, I think as people start, I know developers sometimes have not trouble with animations, but that they take time, and so I think the fact that a lot of design programs are integrating where you can you turn it to code quicker instead of before where it was like, okay, we have to like with an SVG image, if you want to animate it, it's super easy now, whereas before you had to locate the layers and stuff in the SVG, and then it was like, okay, so where is that in my code now? I hope I named it right.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very difficult, but again, it depends probably where you work and what you create and what you do, what is your goal. If your goal is to create the moving interface, the motion and animation, then probably developers will be fine with that.
I really like something you said earlier, Anna, about when you were just getting into UI design and animation. You mentioned that you tried to copy or even recreate some popular designs from other websites. That's actually exactly what I did when I was trying to improve my visual design skills, and I found that I learned way quicker that way than trying to create something on my own. I'm not particularly creative when I have nothing to build off of, and so it really super helped me to have other things to build first. So I really think it's an awesome way to try to learn a new skill like animation. One thing I'm curious about is, what was the first animation project that you were working on where you felt like you were good at it?
Do you mean UI and some application or website?
Anything with animation in it. Anything with something that moves.
Well, then I can say there is a website. It's called 11 Second Club. I don't know if you've heard about that. So it's basically every month there is an audio which lasts 11 seconds from some famous movie or whatever, and you have to make an animation for. You have to make a cartoon animation for this audio. So you have to make a video. And I was participating every month, and then in the end they also choose the winner. So I never won, of course, because I'm not so good as other people. But I've created, and I really loved it. And it's like first time I think I felt like, I can do these things. I can. I have to work more hard. I have to spend more time on that. But it's really cool. I really was so satisfied with that.
Do you find doing the clubs or like design challenges? Does that help you like recognize the areas you need to improve, so you're not just blindly trying to learn something, and you could be focusing on the right area instead of the wrong area?
Well, Zach, it's definitely. I mean, every project that I start to do, then during the process I find always something that I either didn't know or I didn't know how to do it another way. You can create a button in one way or another way, animation the same. It's like, so I guess every time I personally find something that I don't know and I improve myself, I learn something else, and I guess when you compete with somebody, it also gives you some boost, and you can compare yourself to other people.
So, Anna, in that case, what would you say? I don't know if I should say, do you have a preference to animate in a specific program? But would you say that animating in Adobe Illustrator is either easier, more flexible, more open, or more creative than if you were animating in Figma?
I started my UI UX journey in Adobe XD, and then I just moved to Figma because I love Adobe. I love its interface and tools and everything, but I find Figma more easy to create animations, prototypes and so on. So my favorite tool now is Figma. I guess for me personally, Figma is much better than Adobe XD.
Oh, I think Zach's going to blacklist you from any future appearances on
I dislike XD.
On our,
XD's terrible. You can't animate in Illustrator. You have to make your design in Illustrator and then export it to like After Effects.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Adobe pretty much owns everything. I mean, I was watching an episode of The Office, and one of the characters was looking to do graphic design, and this episode was about 18 years ago, which was around the time I got into graphics, and they mentioned programs such as Dreamweaver, which I used, Corel Draw, which I used, Fireworks, I used that, and they're all owned by Adobe now. But it was true what you said earlier about, when you've used one program. I also mentioned this in another episode. Once you've used one program, you get used to it. You start using others. You really do get an advantage in being able to use any program, even if you might even be able to use a program better than someone who only uses the one program. I mean, anything I open to do graphics design, this is what helped me with Figma when I was having a pain point with it, trying to do the basics. But anything like a graphics program, I open it and I think, yeah, okay, the interface is a little different. There are a couple of functions I probably need to revise, but I think when you get the experience, and this is the thing, years of experience. I don't think it shouldn't just mean, oh, you've got professional experience in the field. I mean, come on, someone who's done wireframes for 10 years or sketches for 10 years isn't going to be as much of an expert to someone who's only done it for 2 years as, say, you've got a doctor who's been doing a doctor for 10 years and someone who's only been 2 years. The difference is, night and day. But I think that, it sounds like you actually got a lot of practical experience, and this is what companies should be looking for. So actually, I think with what you're saying, of course, we'll go more in depth with it. But I think you have got those years of experience in being able to create a product.
Yeah, that's for sure. So basically, I don't know. It's like for every company, it's probably more important to hire a person with some experience, even though this person was creating, as you said, he or she was creating the same things over and over the years. But I guess it really depends on the company and on the person. If you ask me on the interview, I will tell you that I'm amazing and I'm creative and I'm open to new stuff and I can learn things and I will do it super fast and you will be very satisfied with me. But unfortunately, the tendency in the IT industry is like that, because many people got fired by Twitter, as you know, and I guess so many experienced IT specialists and designers, they just hunt for a job. So I cannot personally compete with them. Yeah, but we will see.
Now that makes it hard too, because they're not. Some are. I wouldn't say they're demoting themselves, but they're taking the job that. Like junior positions, there's a lot of guys who are working 5-6 years and they're happily applying to them because the market is oversaturated and it's just a really tough market right now.
Yeah, that's
definite.
But I understand it. Like if you're 5 or 6 years into your career and you have a family and a house, why not take that job to keep your family and house comfortable or to keep your situation doable? And they don't want to be 5-6 years with experience gathered, and then they have a year of unemployment, and then they're still at 5-6 years in this hiring cycle.
Yeah, that's a personal choice, I guess, of everyone. But there is another thing now, is artificial intelligence. So there are some websites and platforms that can create animation with already included code, which we do manually. So I don't know, the future is not so bright.
Do you think that just means that animators have to change their strategy? Like, do you...
Well, there is no strategy, I guess. I mean, you just do your design, you just do your animation manually using some tool, as Figma, for example, and the artificial intelligence can do it without a human. So the companies may use it in the future. Of course, now it's everything in beta version, but it's really fast developing. So I don't know what will happen.
It's really hard to say. I don't think designers and creatives should be afraid of it ruining it for you. Does that make sense? It's going to change it. a lot, and I think a lot of people aren't going to like it at first, but I do think you're going to need a designer. Like, somebody has to think of that, because a computer can spit out creative lines, but if you've ever spent enough time on ChatGPT, at some point it's all the same and it's all generic. And if that's what the market's going to turn to, we just have to wait for it to burn itself down. I don't know the better solution. So it's
I agree with you that for now, the product that we create, we can do it so much in detail, personalized to the company or to the project goals. That artificial intelligence cannot do. But it's all so fast developing in the recent years, and I guess I don't know what it can become. If I don't know, just a few years ago, it was unimaginable that you will create a picture just from saying what is it, what you want to see, and now we can do it. We can easily do it. So I don't know. For now, we are not afraid, but we will see.
I hope it doesn't get to that point, but I mean, even the product we're developing incorporates AI into it, and I understand where it can really help our product, and it's not going to take anyone else's job because it functions in our system, if that makes sense. But it's so weird to think, like, at some point you're just talking to your app, and your app knows where everything you need is and gets it done. Like, it brings it to you, and you just have to do the bare minimum at that point.
Yeah, but I always think, I always think about those people who created it and who improve it every day. I mean, like, okay, we sit in front of our application and we say what we want to do, and it does for us. But imagine those, I don't know how to call them, developers. Yeah. How they do it, what they use, and I don't know. It's so big industry, and it's developing in many spheres of our life today. So it always was for me the same as, for example, I don't know, the same Figma or Sketch or Adobe XD. There are also guys that work on it every day. Like, we work on interfaces, they work on that every day.
Yeah, it's crazy how much Figma has advanced in this last year alone. Like, well, the amount of plugins you can get, and there's a lot of AI-based ones, which is really great, 'cause sometimes I've had to use it instead of putting the famous lorem ipsum in there. It's like, just generate me some content real quick. I don't need anything specific, just something to put in.
You know what? Just recently I was trying to do some project, and I opened another program from Adobe package. It's Adobe In, I guess. It's for 3D stuff. And I tried to do something there, and then I opened my Illustrator and also worked there. But then in the end, I just went back to Figma, because I don't know, it's much easier for me. It was much easier for me at that moment to create what I wanted in Figma. So this tool is amazing.
Yeah, and I can't imagine a better tool for our industry, and I think that's why it's taken over so quickly. I'm really excited to see how good animations in Figma are going to get, because they did the Lottie files, which was great, being able to incorporate Lottie files, and then now I've noticed some like prototyping animations when you're making like components. I'll make component animations like for our onboarding. I have animated arrows and stuff, and I just made those as components so I could drag and drop them in the direction I wanted them to point. And then Smart Animate has been getting smoother and smoother and smoother, so I'm really interested to see where that goes, or with as in-depth as their prototyping tools have gotten. I hope they keep up on the animation end. I was really excited that you could use video in your prototypes now.
And you know what? The interesting thing that this smart animation in Figma is very similar to the tools that exist in those cartoon animation programs. So there is also like the movement parameters, and yeah, it's very similar.
Now, considering you like Illustrator as well, or you work with it, have you used Rive?
Well, I can tell you that for the current projects that I have on my portfolio, I used Illustrator just for some visual stuff, like to very simple stuff, just to crop and like color and paint something or so on. Yeah, so
Because they are vector graphics, there's a program out there and it's called Rive, and I was actually told about it from my developer, and I tried it out, and it's really cool because you can like build a skeleton. So if you made an illustration or a vector graphic in Illustrator, you can add a skeleton to this thing and pose it almost like a stop motion, and you create these animations, and they're super smooth, and they have it also so you can put it into code for your coders if they need it, or you can transfer it to Figma and it goes right into your prototypes. But they're super smooth animations.
well, that's great. And do you do like bones? Yeah, you do skeleton with bones and then move them.
Yeah, so you like if you have like a giant earthworm or something, you can build like its backbone so you can tell it how to crawl.
Yeah, it's the same with cartoon animation. Yeah, the many programs have it. But yes, for me, I started with that one. I started to use bones and skeletons and move the objects so on the timeline, and then record it. But then I actually moved to frame by frame animation. Yes, for cartoons. So you just draw each frame. There are 24 frames.
Yep.
Yeah, and you just draw for every frame. You just draw the cartoon. Yeah, I found it more, I don't know, more aesthetic. I don't know. I loved it more.
Yeah, I did couple animations in college. One was hand drawn and it was 1 minute and 45 seconds long. I can't tell you how many drawings I had to do.
It's crazy.
Yeah, by the end of it, I was done. I was like, I don't care how short this thing is. It's finished. So
that's true.
And then 2 Christmases ago, I made a claymation or stop motion film for Christmas for my daughter using our Elf on the Shelf. And my wife came in the kitchen at like. My wife came in the kitchen at like 2 a.m, and I had all my daughter's stuffed animals like under the table with Legos, and I had my whole lighting kit and my camera in there. And my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It probably looks really crazy because it's 2 a.m, but I'm making a Christmas movie." And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I have to do it like frame by frame in a camera." And my wife's like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "Here." And I just like fast forwarded through all the pictures I took on my camera so she could see them on the display. And she's like, "That is sweet." I'm like, "Yeah, so this elf now has to get to the top of this Christmas tree and put the star on it." And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm going to bed."
That's very cute.
But no, I've always been into like claymation and stop motion, and then I'm fascinated by interactions in apps because I feel like they can make or break an app, and they can really convince someone to stay just because they enjoy the experience of using it. And so I got really excited about the prototyping like options, and then that Rife program where you can import your stop motion skeleton into Figma as an animation, and then it is super smooth. So
yeah, but when people just open some interface, why animation is important, or motion design? Because the current world is very busy. We are all busy. So just to drag our attention, we use this animation. And maybe people will not read what is written there, but their attention will be there because they see something which is moving and which is beautiful or attracting. So
it's amazing. TikTok has turned the world into the biggest ADHD pool. Nobody can pay attention, so everything has to be flashy. But no, I enjoy giving some people interesting stuff to look at. Like in one of my case studies, I had designed the logo, and then I took that logo because users interact with it when they're getting to the menus or even to the home screen. And so I just animated that logo because it was like, okay, if something's going to attract attention to your company and you're already interacting with that logo, which is ingraining that in people's brain, what's the best way to only improve on that? And that's to make an action come of using it. So people are like, oh yeah, okay, this is connected somehow.
Yeah, exactly. And what about the Sketch? I don't know. I have just I don't have MacBook, so as far as I know, Sketch is only for that. Does anybody use it? And how is it for animation?
I never got far enough into it for animation. I think I opened it one time and closed it, and that was
okay.
Yeah, it's.
I have about 1 hour in Sketch.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I was just trying to make a resume in Sketch instead of Figma because I had heard that it was better about exporting text, like selectable text in PDF format. So I tried it out for an hour, and like the keyboard shortcuts just weren't as intuitive for me. And I mean, of course, this is not animation, but and something about like keeping a file like didn't make any sense to me, which is crazy because it was a normal like file save system. You would save it to your actual computer, whereas Figma is just cloud save. And so this was the first time that I was like, wait a sec, I have to save this like a normal person from a couple of years ago? And I lost my document because I didn't think to do that. I was like, yeah, let's just save to the cloud. But yeah, for me, it just wasn't as intuitive as Figma. That's all.
That's strange because I heard like really so many people use Sketch. So interesting.
I think I said that in our episode the other day, didn't I? I was like, I've talked to about 100 people who use Sketch, but I think they just say that because they want to be that guy.
They want to be Tim Cook's best friend.
Yeah, you said that. I used Sketch probably a couple of times when I had the trial. I mentioned that as well. But I don't know. For me, it's just Figma. I mean, as you said earlier, Zach, there are hundreds of plugins, all different ones, or maybe ones that are similar but do a slightly different function. But I think it's I think Figma is pretty much. I mean, if anyone was to say, or when I see a job advert and they say, "Oh, Adobe XD," like, Adobe XD is obsolete. You know, Adobe has bought Figma. They're going to be focusing on Figma, which makes sense. But I think Figma is pretty much the standard tool that anyone has to use. I mean, yes, you know, we have Sketch, but even so, like you said earlier, Anna, when you use one program that's very similar, you're pretty much au fait with at least anywhere from 70 to 90% of the program, and there's only a small margin of functions you might need to learn, but you've already had to learn functions in other programs, so it's the learning process is easier as well.
Yeah, and I feel like if you've used Photoshop or Illustrator, you're going to have a pretty good learning curve as far as ease of use into a newer program. Because Illustrator used to be really complicated back when I first started using it, and it's only gotten more complicated, but I've been using it so long that anything they add that's new isn't even a learning curve at that point. It's like, oh, great, just another key command I have to figure out.
That's always the case. I remember with I did try Illustrator. I have dabbled in it. I mean, it was a long time ago. I think maybe I was scarred for life, and then I was using Photoshop. I mean, when it came to designing websites, I programmed with HTML, C++, CSS, JavaScript, but I used ImageReady because it generated the code for you. You create it in Photoshop, you import in ImageReady, which no one uses now, it's obsolete. You do slices, and then they become tabs, etc., etc. But Yeah, what I did, the way I learned, because we mentioned it earlier, Anna, you said, and I know you use this method, Will, of recreating websites. All I used to do is, instead of looking up theory work, all I used to do was go on a place called Photoshop Cafe, and it's still there, actually. I still check it from time to time, and all I would do, regardless of whether I knew what the tools meant or the functions, I would just click on what they click, and I'd do a whole range of things. So I design anything from forum avatars or avatars, however you want to say it, logos, graphics, or small baubles, ripple effects, all of these really basic things. And then you just apply them. You think, okay, I'll take a current site I use or an app, and you think, well, how do I think it can be improved? And it is. I don't think there is any better way of doing it. I think throwing yourself in the deep end and just experimenting with a program is actually the best way.
Well, I would say the best way of in everything is just practice. So as much as you do, you find some things that you don't know, or you don't know how it works, and you don't know how to use it. As much that much you learn every time.
Well, of course, practice makes perfect, as people say. But I think I don't think it's quite as simple as just saying practice, because there are so many methods of practice. Some work for others, some don't. I mean, if someone was to tell me, hey, you have to read this, I want you to do this step by step, this step by step, I might be someone who thinks, no, I just want to just be given the creativity and I'll just come up with my own thing. Or maybe I would need someone to guide me step by step. And I think that yes, practice is obviously the only way, but I think if you break the practice down, you have to find a way of practice that works for you, that is the most effective.
I would say the thing is that you have to really be perfect at the basic stuff. So if you are perfect, and if you know how the basic stuff, the base works, and you are professional in there, then you can experiment and you can spend your time for creating new stuff. Of course, we all have to be creative, and we should improvise and so on. But without knowing the base and without being stable in that ground, I guess you cannot become better.
We'll take a art school line from a professor I had, and it's, you have to know your medium. It doesn't matter if you want to experiment or try mixing mediums. Be familiar with both of them if you're mixing. Be familiar with one if that's all you're using. Just get super familiar with it. Like I like to do paper cutout stuff in Illustrator. It's actually how I'm designing my website. And then I know people who actually do like paper stacked portraits and with real paper. And it's like, I couldn't, to save my life, I could not. But I can do it in Illustrator.
Yeah, it's like personal choice.
Yeah, and so it's whatever you like. I think it's the same with UX, UI. If you're into it and that's what you want to do, really learn it, and then you can break rules.
Well, I remember an English teacher of mine at school always said to me, because back then, and I guess even to an extent, I do tend to have I don't know if I'm shooting myself in the foot here saying this, but I do tend to have first of all, I would just say it's nowhere near as untamed or as wild as it used to be. But I do have this thing to want to kind of run with something, not necessarily because someone's not told me to do it. It's because someone's told me to do it. It's because someone's maybe not told me to not do it. But I think it is important to have the basics down. It is you have to have that balance. However, I don't think that if someone, when I was learning music, for example, I would jump straight into Jaco Pastorius stuff, whereas I had to kind of curb that down and learn basic chord progressions and stuff. But that was fine because it led me to want to read music, which I can do. But I think basics is good. You have to have them. You can't run without walking. But Yeah, so Anna, so before we wrap this up, I just wanted to get some final thoughts. What kind of roles are you looking for specifically? Is it UI designer with animation? Is it an animator? What kind of things do you want to, or opportunities do you want going forward?
Well, I think I'm more about UI than UX. So I think any position in the for the interesting project with UI UX I can also do. I can also enjoy, because I think it's like it's very big topic. What is UI and what is UX? But I enjoy more visual stuff than to do research and give data and work with analyzing the data. Yeah, I guess the position of junior UI designer would fit me well. So let's hope.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if especially if the right people hear this podcast, I'm sure now that they've got a very olfactory impression of your portfolio and what you can do. And you've obviously been very candid. You've been given a lot of your you've been given some tips. You've been given a lot about how you've learned, how you've improved, and there's some really, really good tips there. But I'm pretty sure that, I hope for us, for those of us who are looking for work, that we do get something. But as you said earlier, Zach, the market is very saturated now. People are taking pay cuts. So senior UX designers are perhaps getting the roles of junior UX designers, and then it obviously begs the question of what does a junior UI designer do? But yeah, we need to we're going to wrap this up now. But we just want to say again a huge thank you for joining us on the show, and to make that really extra special.
Well, I'm also thank you guys, and it was my pleasure. And I hope in the future you will call me again. So I will really enjoy it.
Yep. Oh, definitely. We will definitely have you on again. I mean, there are so many things. I'm sure, so many topics you have an opinion about, especially when it relates to the world of UX, UI, design, and creativity. So, absolutely, Anna, you would be more than welcome to be a guest again on the episode. But no, I mean, I've really enjoyed it. Will, Zach, I know Zach was really looking forward to this because he's an animation aficionado. But yeah, thank you so much again for your time, for your knowledge, Anna, and for joining us. I know this is your first podcast, and it was our first podcast with a guest. So we've both had our maiden voyages, so to speak. Yeah, but anyway, for those of you listening to this, again, thank you very much for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed it as always, as we enjoy recording and making it. And we do have to give a shout out to Zach, who has been working very diligently, despite his responsibilities at work and also at home. He's the one who's organizing all of the channels that we're on, which includes Apple. Those of you who see my LinkedIn posts, you'll know all of the channels. For those of you who haven't, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Podbean, we're on YouTube, and a whole bunch of other podcast episodes. So there's no excuse for you to not listen to us and spread the word about this podcast.
I mean, if people have questions, they can always email us as well. So if you'd like to hear more from Anna, you can email us. Or if you have specific questions about animation, we can always relay questions to her if she's not available. Our email was framexframe.ui. Was that it? Framexframe? That is framexframe.uxpod@gmail.com.
That's the one, yeah. We can't even remember exactly. We got too many letters. But yeah, for those of you who
we never give it out either.
no, well, we do, but it's usually when people have probably fallen asleep by the end of our episode.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, for those of you who are regular listeners, or you're just tuning in for the first time, if you want to see Anna's portfolio and connect with her about job opportunities, or you just want to get tips on animation, you just want to connect and talk UX UI and listen to her incredible journey, then you can look her up and her portfolio on LinkedIn. It is AnnaEivör Shvarova. You can also obviously message us, as we've said on previous episodes. If you want to collaborate with us, you need any help, or you just want to get some information, feel free to message us. I'm Cross Preston. We've got William Carson, and of course Zachary, or Zach Oleski. Because I said Zachary because I saw your website and you listed the Impressum. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, thank you all so much again for tuning in. Please get in touch with your questions, comments, anything else. Spread the word, rate us if you really enjoy us. If you don't really enjoy us, then rate us anyway. We would appreciate it. But from all of us here, from myself,
don't encourage bad ratings.
No, we sorry, good vibes.
If you don't like it, go away.
Exactly.
Good vibes only here for the ratings, right? Although we do actually have 1 5-star review on Apple, but I don't see the statistics for that, so I have no idea who rated that. But whoever you are, if it's one of us,
my grandmother.
Maybe, or the ice cream man when I tipped him well, who knows. Yeah, but from all of us here, from myself, from Will, from Zach, and of course our special guest Anna, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will be with you on the next episode. And this episode, I will make a LinkedIn post about it. I will let all of you know that this episode has gone up. For those of you who haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Okay, thank you very much, and good night.